Awesome. Hello, we are live now. My name is Hetal Doshi. I'm an organizational psychologist, and as part of an ongoing initiative to support the mental well-being of our community, we have started a series of interviews with experts and awesome people just like you and I to talk about interesting things that can make our mental states at some nicer level than it was before you watch this interview. So pressure is on always for the one speaking. Your job is to make sure that we are happier, healthier, and more productive after this conversation. So together with me is Daniel. I absolutely love the intro when we asked Daniel to introduce himself. I'm trying to pull that up now. But definitely somebody that everybody respects incredibly because he's an incredible community supporter and driver. With me is Daniel. Daniel, you put NextupAsia next to you. Woohoo!
Yeah, hi.
NextupAsia.
Yeah,
Daniel,
because
you want to introduce yourself a little bit?
no, because I've been going into panels and stuff like that, so it's easier to identify. I'm asking my speakers to do the same thing, so I
Right.
decided I decided like, okay, let's just do it. Let's
Yeah.
do it. Yeah.
Awesome. So we're doing a bit of a reverse interview, basically, right?
Pretty much, yes.
Pretty much, yeah.
I'm so relaxed. Like this is so nice.
Yeah. So it's not an interview anyway, it's just a general conversation. That's what we always do. So Daniel is a secular humanist. He's a technology optimist, and
Yeah.
he helps to run and grow several startup communities and entrepreneurial communities around Malaysia and the world. Some of his groups have like had over 25,000 people now, I think, if I'm not wrong, Daniel.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, we're a bit
Uh,
lagging
cool.
because I accidentally switched on Facebook Live.
Oh, okay. No worries. Yeah,
Hopefully the lag goes away.
it grew from 8,000 to 25,000 in about a year like that. Like slightly about.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's a whole load of people. And yeah, I mean, definitely, how you grew your group or how your group is growing is a topic for another day on its own as well. It's really hard work to support the growth of the community, especially because all of these things are non-commercial. They're just basically things that we want to do for the community. So how to keep that going is definitely a question for another day as well. We're talking to Daniel today because he has been a very integral part of putting Malaysia on the map by having or organizing one of the largest TEDxKLs in Southeast Asia region.
It's the largest TEDxKL, but it's one of the largest TEDx in the world. Yeah.
In the world, okay, not Southeast Asia, in the world. And we're talking about how many people turned up for the last one, Daniel?
So the last one, so we went on a bit of a hiatus because of my personal health and also work. But before we went on a hiatus, we had about 5,000 people, 5,000 participants with waiting list of close to 10,000.
What?
Yeah. There's a waiting list.
Wow. Oh my
We
God,
are
okay.
as big as the venue we can hold. That's
Right.
that's what
it, yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. And okay, so tell us how you got into becoming an organizer for TEDxKL and how you gained the trust to be able to handle not only a very huge brand, but also a very valued, credible, and consistent brand as well. So how did that happen for you?
It's actually very funny because I was actually finishing a stint with an old business of mine. I just exited, and at the point in time, I was in Malaysia. I didn't know many people, so I started doing a lot of community events in Malaysia, like mostly startup stuff and so forth. And what happened was one of my friend who, I think she was an intern back then. She's like, hey, TED is doing this, and I know you know what TED is, because at that point in time, no one really know what TED was actually. And still, there's a lot of people might not know. It's actually a conference that's been around since 1984. So it's been a while, but at that point in time,
1984.
yes.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
I probably have known about TEDx maybe for 5-6 years maximum. I don't think more than that.
Yeah. So
Okay,
so
sorry, go ahead.
no, it's okay. Because it's one of those things that it used to be a bit more exclusive. It started off as like a dinner party for the founder Richard Wolfman. And when Richard started it, it was mainly a dinner party. There was a lot of quotes from Richard that got onto the whole TEDx event. When Chris Anderson brought it over, took over the whole thing, he started to post video online, and that's where general public starting to be aware there's this thing called TED, because
Mm-hmm.
you see some of your favorite entrepreneur, thinkers, artists are all on this TED stage. And so a lot of
Mm-hmm.
people got curious. I was a bit lucky because I know about TED maybe several years before, because it was a aspirational thing. Like, it was like when I was younger, I want to go TED because that's where all the
Yeah.
Silicon Valley entrepreneurs will go and
Right, right.
so forth. So my friend actually reached out and said like, hey, you are free. You're not doing anything, and we're piloting this thing out. Would you want to join? And then
Yeah.
so she asked me to apply. I applied. I became I think license number 36. We were the second license in uh, Asia or Southeast Asia. Or I can't
Mhm.
remember, because back in those days there were only about 50 of us. So
Right,
TEDx
right.
Singapore, TEDx Tokyo, the whole bunch in the States, and like there was a really random group of people.
Yeah,
And
right.
these are close friends right up to now. That organizers, license holder of them, they are really close friends.
Mm,
I've been around 10 years already. Yeah.
that's awesome. Yeah, that's awesome. And so can I ask you, interesting thing that you said earlier? He had some quirks. What are these quirks? What did you mean when you said quirks?
Okay, so do you know there's a rule in TED that you're not supposed to wear tie on stage?
No.
Because now it's a given. Now it's like casual, everything, like, you know what. So because back in those days, remember, this is the 1980s, and every single conference or formal conference in any respectable conference, you need to wear a tie. So
Right.
Richard will used to go up and snip the tie off.
Wow.
So that's one thing. And the other thing,
Right.
he got bored really easily. So if
Yeah.
any once he get bored, he will chase you off stage, or rather, he will stop you from speaking. So that's where the sort of the mythical 18 minutes came about.
Mm.
Yeah.
All right,
So that
that's really interesting because I think for a lot of us in our heads we have already chased the person out of the stage anyway. But he
yeah.
actually physically articulated that. That's awesome. So how did you become the one? How did you become the entrusted person?
So
Because
it's
I
like,
understand that the licensing is obviously something that they take extremely seriously. They probably just definitely want somebody with the right intentions, somebody who's going to make it sustainable, take this for the long run, somebody that they can really rely on. And these are very hard things to be doing, and none of these are commercially driven anyway. So it's all volunteer basis, right?
yeah.
So
So
so how did that happen for you? How did you become the trusted one?
it's basically because I by chance I know someone, and I know enough of the brand that they felt that this is something that. And even originally it wasn't really much about a talk. It was more like viewing parties. Let's organize viewing parties together, and maybe some speakers and so on. But like, as the thing started to take shape,
Yeah,
like TEDx became more about localized ideas, like ideas
right.
within your region, ideas within your community. So originally it wasn't that. Originally it was a way to get people to share and watch. It's like a watch party. I think like
Right, right.
that was because it was inspired by a group of Japanese people that is like 500 of them gathered and just watch TED videos.
Right.
Yeah.
Interesting. Super interesting. And what would you say? I think we've had a couple of conversations about TEDx and um, the importance of not making it an egotistical thing. So it is not about you, it is about the idea.
Yeah.
Um, it has to be very centered around what is valuable for an audience. So there's a lot of things that is counterintuitive, or it's a lot of things that, I guess we have this idea of how to tell a story, but it's the complete opposite way of doing it. What do you think are people's common errors when it comes to storytelling? Common
So,
things that they make mistakes on.
so first thing first is really, as the tagline suggests, it's ideas worth sharing. It's not like
Yeah.
person or superstar worth sharing. In fact,
That's awesome.
a lot of the famous speakers that came out from TED, like Simon Sinek, what's his Hans Rosling, they are all fairly unknown. Like
Yeah.
they are good in their field, but they are fairly unknown, and they became world famous because of they were the conduit of a very interesting idea that became that spreads faster than any virus can spread actually, which
Mm.
which is actually that's the core principle of TEDx. So it's never about the person. The person is important because there's a certain credibility. Like I like nuclear, like basically like
I like nuclear. You want to
yeah.
phrase that a bit better?
No. I like nuclear stuff like liquid thorium reactors. I mean, I can go
Right.
on and go detail into it. But I'm not the best person to talk about. I don't have a degree. I don't have any credibility indicator for me to what. I'm just an enthusiast. So there is a
Right.
certain level of credibility for the person to present. But at the
Yeah.
end of the day, it's all about the idea. It's really all about the idea to present.
Right. And in that is non-discriminatory because it doesn't matter who you are, what your color is, what your age is, what your title, your status, your stature, nothing.
Yeah.
It's just ultimately about the idea as well. Um, that's a very big contrast to certain cultures like Malaysian cultures, where a lot of the speakers typically that end up going on stage are chosen because of their titles, not because of their ideas. Would
Yeah.
you agree with that?
I think it's a global thing because there's so many people who come to us and say like, "Hey, I want to share my story." I'm like, "Okay, so what's the idea of your story?" "Oh yeah, I struggled so hard and I did this, I did that, then I became successful." Okay, sure, I respect that. I mean, I truly respect that. But how many people have done that? How many people struggle? Every successful person struggle.
Yeah. And so go ahead. Yeah. So you're absolutely correct.
And but
Everybody's
what's the idea behind it? Is that an idea that caused that what? Or maybe if you want to say your idea is that like Sheryl Sandberg has famously mentioned in terms of lean in that one of her key areas of success is basically choosing the right life partner,
yes.
and that's an idea never really articulated much prior to that.
Mm, right.
So
Yeah, we hear it a lot now. We
you hear
didn't
a lot
ever
now.
hear that. When we heard it when we heard it articulated, it was like as though we heard it for the very first time. Something that we knew of, that we thought of, we felt of, but was never articulated.
Yeah. So she
Yeah.
was the. It doesn't matter. Sheryl Sandberg was the COO of Facebook or her what she did and etc. But like it was something that on the verge of. It was an idea on the verge of being noticed, but she was the one that articulated and became the conduit of it, became the channel in terms of sharing that idea. Because we all before that frame of reference, we always think like, yeah, it doesn't matter who you married or etc. It's like if I am successful, I am successful, and so on.
Right.
She
Yeah.
challenged that notion. She said
Yeah.
like, the person that is your life partner brings a lot to your own personal level of success.
Yeah. Yeah. So, what is an idea, and how is that different from a story?
So an idea is something that you can actually. A story is a way, could be a way of telling an idea. An idea is, it could be something very simple. So it's like a method, like how, for example, how to tie a shoelace. One of my favorite talk is a 3 minute talk, how to tie a
I
shoelace.
know,
And
I've heard you say
I
that.
know
Yeah.
she's like, oh, that story again. So, but then again, that's the difference. A story is just a narrative of an experience.
Right.
Idea,
Right.
it could be idea could be something, a lesson or a how-to or a framework or a reference that you can take out from this story. And
Okay.
story,
All right. Yeah. And a story is the way of what you say, sharing that experience,
yeah.
the method of sharing that experience. And how do ideas come about?
So
When do ideas come about, and when do they come about but you didn't even notice that it was an idea?
So the ideas are actually very interesting. I think one of the key things that you always need to think about are ideas cross pollinate. It never comes. There's never. I can't remember. It was a talk. Essentially, like ideas having sex. Uh, like one idea with another idea comes together, and then you have something totally new. And so, give you a good example. Using Facebook as an example. Facebook was a social network, but the idea of a social network wasn't new. Before Facebook, there was MySpace. Before MySpace, there was
Mm.
actually Friendster. Before
Mm.
Friendster, you have your phone book and or your
Yeah.
yeah. So there's
Yeah.
always some form of social network, but the idea becomes something different when it takes on a new mutation per se. So it's
Mm.
so it becomes like, oh, what Friendster did was, okay, let's add friends, and then let's digitalize your friendship, and you can add friends, and you can do that. Then what Facebook actually end up doing that is like, oh yeah, because the idea is never about just adding friends, but having a real identity towards your friend. So it
Mm.
was, remember, Facebook always used to have your real name, like
Yeah.
back in the day. Of course,
Yeah.
ideas do change and evolve over time. But
Yeah.
back in the day, that was the big idea. The big idea is, oh, everyone goes online with a pseudonym. Our big,
Yes.
our big idea is we should get them to go online with their real name.
I didn't even remember that transition actually. Now that you tell me this, because I remember we all used to go on ICQ or MSN or whatever it is, and we always had that pseudonym.
Yeah,
I don't even remember consciously thinking, oh, this is something radically different.
yeah,
But now that you mentioned that to me, when we were kids, we always say, oh yeah, I remember your pseudonym. I remember your pseudonym. But I can't. Yeah, I never consciously ever thought about that cross
yeah.
from a pseudonym to a real name.
But that shift, it could be really tiny, but can be really impactful. It causes like a big ripple across society, because it's all of a sudden
Mm,
there's a change in perception. What does
right,
what,
right.
what does a real identity brings to
Yeah.
the table? A pseudonym
Mm,
is like elevated trust.
yeah.
You know, like, okay, when I added hater on Facebook, I know that's hater. I mean, I saw a know that's hater.
Yeah.
But then you want to bring that to the next level. You look at LinkedIn, or you look at what is like, how do you have that elevated trust? Because
Yeah.
the idea might be changing from a pseudonym to a real name, but
Mm.
the impact of the idea is
It's
elevation of trust.
huge. My God. Yeah, it's huge. And the amount that we were revealing on Facebook as well, like gradually just increased exponentially. We're
Yeah,
like revealing things that we don't even reveal to our own family members on Facebook.
yeah.
Where in the past it was just a pseudonym, nobody knows who you are, like anonymous or something. And now it's like I give you everything, I tell you everything that you want me, you want out of me. That's crazy. So we have friend from Ireland saying hello. I'm not sure who you are. I'm sorry. I'm imagining a couple of people in my mind, but I can't confirm. If you could click on StreamYard and allow them to see your name, I probably will be able to see your name. But otherwise, thank you so much for tuning in as well. Nurul has been very kind. She has
It's also
located
my
the
favorite. Yeah, my favorite
TED
talk.
talk for, yeah, your favorite talk on how to tie shoelace. And again, with me, it's Daniel. And Daniel always reminds me that in between, I need to remind the audience what they're tuning into. So this is Daniel together with me talking about his insights from running the largest TEDx conference in the whole world. And what were
Not
your insights,
one
Daniel?
of the largest. One of the largest.
One of the largest. Yes, yes, I said one of the largest. I didn't say the largest.
Okay.
So what are your could you bear to share what is the difficulty, because you're working with a lot of volunteers to
Yeah.
organize a super significant event, if not probably one of the largest events, like people sought for it, like it's like World Economic Forum, TEDx. You've got like just a few things that people are like, oh, die, I want to go for one of these in my lifetime, right? What is it like running volunteers to kind of put something like this up together? And if I can share, Daniel, I remember when you invited me for one 3 years ago, or rather when we were partnering on NextupAsia. We were doing a couple of interviews. I think it was 3 years ago, maybe, or is it 4? I hope
I,
no more than that. It's just crazy if it's more than that.
let's just say, I'm just gonna say 2.
Okay, fine. So let's just say it's 2 years. Do you remember that somebody had a medical incident
Yeah,
while you were running it, and you had to put a pause on it, and that was insane. And then there was a doctor in the middle of this whole conference who put up his hand and came out to help. So much drama. So can you tell me what is it like to run volunteers for a very credible brand?
I don't think it only has to be a credible brand, but it has to be everything because you have to understand why they end up volunteering for you because they do not volunteer for me as the person. They volunteer for the purpose. Like the way we view everyone in TEDx as a family, but we are all here for a purpose to actually highlight. So the purpose for TEDxKL has always been to highlight interesting speakers and doers, especially from Malaysia that you have never heard about. So so they all understood like I sign up for this. Like this is what I want. We treat them with utmost respect. We give them a lot of autonomy. We will help to guide them. Ultimately, one of the things that because we can't pay them, we do not have the budget to pay them. We try to make this an experience for them to grow. And a lot of them actually end up taking on leadership roles in either their own organization, starting their own business, or having their own event, or having a what. And I've seen so many leaders that came out from our group, and I'm always so impressed, and I'm always so humbled by the amount of like they will come back and say like, hey, I learned to do this because you taught me this. I was like, oh wow, and that is something I learned from actually organizing an event before that. Yeah.
There's a lot of patience that comes with doing this. I mean, you really need to be some kind of a character to be able to handle these kind of things. For some people, this could be, I don't know, their calling, and for some people, this is just like incredibly insane to do volunteer work and running a purpose that is maybe non-commercial. Why do you do these things?
I would always like to say it because I'm bored, which is partially true. Like it's partially true. There's a few reasons for it. I mean, there's not really one, but there's definitely a few reasons. Let me go with the more altruistic reason on that. The altruistic reason is basically in terms of I do believe that Malaysia has a lot of potential. We are always underselling ourselves. We are always thinking Malaysia can't do Singapore better, Indonesia better. Yes, of course, some ways, but we can fight. We can compete. We can succeed. And the reason why I end up doing TEDxKL is always to highlight all these amazing people that are doing so amazing stuff, world-class stuff you have never heard about. And that's always our purpose, to act as a discovery for that. And our volunteers understand that. The reason why the volunteers, because this is something I wanted when I was young. When I was young, I end up volunteering for a lot of stuff, but I always end up being treated as a labor. So we told them very early on that, hey, few things. One, I'm going to be an asshole. I'm sorry about that.
Awesome, I love that. I love disclosures like that.
So it's like full disclosure. I'm going to be a bit of an asshole. But second thing, you need to understand this is a course, and this is your voluntary. If you want, you can quit. But yeah, this is what we can offer in it. So we are very transparent in terms of what they actually end up getting back. And of course, we try to deliver more. But it's always like there's a very honest contract in terms of what they will get out of it.
That's awesome. Are there times where you get disappointed by people? Because sorry, how many volunteers did you have?
I think most events we get about 155.
That's loads. That's loads. That's like that's an SME.
No, and some of it's really cool because a lot of them are reoccurring volunteers. And I always like to highlight.
They love the pain, they're back for more every year.
No, like because we function like a family, and we also function understanding the purpose. So we always know purpose first. So it is something way beyond each and any one.
That's awesome. Are there times where you get disappointed by people, or are there certain things that disappoint you about people?
Yes, but I try not to dwell about it. There's definitely cases that I'm very disappointed with some people, but I mean sometimes it's just life and it happens. And like one there are a few people we were grooming to trying to take over TEDx basically. But they have to migrate. I'm disappointed in the circumstances that they have to go and further their study or further their career. So that I totally understand because it's such a big
Yeah,
commitment.
the circumstances is something forgivable, but there are certain traits or things that people do that are not very good. Could you tell us one thing that people do that kind of disrupts an ecosystem and it's not cool?
I think there's every single ecosystem or every single group there's usually a social contract, whether is it explicit or implicit. So that like so we like when you come into any group, you always there's a way of doing things,
Yeah.
and sometimes this way of doing things can be wrong, and we try to always try to challenge it. But at the same time, when people try to put themselves forward, yeah, like put themselves ahead of the purpose, that
Yeah, the ego over the eco.
yeah,
Mm.
that becomes a big no for all of us in terms of the group,
Mm.
because at the end of the day, the only people should be above the purpose during the event is always the speakers. So it's
Mm.
we cater towards the speakers like mad like that.
That's
So
true. That's true. Yeah,
yeah,
I've also seen you investing incredible amounts of time coaching the speakers as well. So would you say that a lot of the speakers are not natural speakers? Um,
if they are not, that is good actually, because we again, our goal was never to look for speakers. Our goal was to look for people who are doing
Ideas.
interesting stuff that
Yeah.
have interesting ideas.
Yeah. And you then invest a lot of time as well to coach them to be able to tell that story
Yeah, if
so that the idea is relatable to everybody else as well.
yeah, if the idea is good, it doesn't. Okay, we always think that you have to be this immaculate presenter on stage, but think about it this way: if you, I think we did this exercise together. When you look at uh, one of the most classically thought of presentation, which is the launch of the iPhone by Steve Jobs. Okay, when you seriously take a look and sit down and listen and observe, he's making a lot of mistakes. He's fumbling, he's being excited, his pitch got a bit higher and etc. But that was one of the most significant presentation for the last like decade in technology.
Mm, mm,
And
yeah.
we always look at Elon Musk with this big halo and stuff like that. But Elon Musk goes with ums and ahs, and like sometimes he's this close body posture. He'll be like, yeah, so
Mm,
like, and conventionally most people will come and tell you, oh, you have to like be open and this and that. Yes, of course, there are best practice, but at the end
mm,
of the day, idea the idea trumps your presentation skill.
mm,
Like it
mm.
trumps so much. We can raise this one up, but if the idea is already down, like
Yeah.
it's very hard to do it.
Do you think in the community these days, the personality precedes the idea?
I think a lot of people think that, and that's why I'm not a big fan of a cult of personality. That's also one of the reasons why during TEDxKL I was very how to say I was very conscious of actually training my replacement, because it shouldn't be a cult of personality of me
Yeah.
or anyone. Jason, my co-curator, which you know,
Hi,
we
Jason.
yeah, we take a very strong approach that it shouldn't be about us, and it should never be about us. At the end
Mm.
of the day, TEDx should be about the ideas, should be about the people on stage that are presenting.
Yeah, and I guess if you could leave us with a parting advice, given we have a minute left,
Mhm.
parting advice to um, everyone out there who has an idea about COVID. Everybody has these impressions, right? Like, what is this COVID about and how does it relate to life and what does this mean for me and stuff like that. How can they make this idea work for them? Because some of it might be constructive, some of it might be destructive. So what is your advice for them with regards to how they build ideas about COVID?
I think this is sort of inspired by you, actually. The one is really just to embrace everything, like really just embrace and take, but also take a like try to take a third person approach to it. I think your exercise that you talk about is your is it your mini me or your mini me exercise. Whatever is just to try to disassociate from everything and just try to look from a third person perspective. I can't remember what you call it actually.
Yeah, so your mini me is like the you when you were really young talking to you about how you make sense of things today.
Yeah,
Yeah, and how it relates to you.
and using just using that, because there's the everything that's good and bad, and yes, it's a tragedy definitely, but there is also so much thing that are on the bright side, because like situation like COVID-19 brings the worst out of humanity. You see racism, you see people accusing, you see a lot of things, but it does bring out the best out of humanity. I have seen
It's
so
very
many
extreme.
people, yeah, yeah, I'm seeing so many people volunteering, helping out people, by doing their best to support the community, to support every single thing. I can name so many of them,
Yeah,
like
including yourself as well.
I mean, excluding me, including you also in terms of that. There's there's so many people who are just like diving deep into it and like trying to make the things better.
That's true.
So
Yeah, I like what you're trying to say. It does bring out the extremes of both. And I guess it's valuable to swing the pendulum to a place that makes your life a little bit better rather than worse, because both realities are true. Both
yeah,
realities are equally true. And hopefully you're somebody who loves happy endings for your stories, and that this collectively leads to a good place for all of us as well. But with that,
yeah.
we've kind of run out of time already. I just want to thank Daniel so much for a couple of things. Number one, I was actually inspired, and also not inspired, but like I felt like I had to. Daniel does a lot for the startup world and entrepreneurs and stuff like that, and there were a lot of people complaining to me about the state of mental health, and I just felt like such a scum of the universe, not focusing enough on community, and everything has been very commercially driven, corporate driven, and blah blah blah. So just seeing what you were doing kind of forced me to say, like, get my act together and do something back as well. So that was really, yeah. So
Don't
just
say
wanted to
that.
say thank you for
Don't
that
say
as well.
that. I mean, at the end of the day, I think you asked me a question before. It's like, have you done your best? Or yeah. So
This is really a reverse thing, huh? No,
yeah,
I'm
that's
sure.
why I'm
I'm
like,
sure. I'm sure.
totally.
Yeah.
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 So
We can always do better or gooder. We can always do gooder. I think it's important to do good. Yeah.
I'm a big believer of a 1% improvement.
1% improved me.
No, like constantly improving by 1%, because it
Right.
accumulates over time. You don't have to.
It does.
You don't have to like. Oh, I need to work out. Okay, today I'm gonna go crazy and etc. But just do 1%. Like keep improving 1%. The kinds of
That's
the
true.
kind of-
That's true. Yeah. Well, you take care. I know it's been a bit of a hard time, but with the passing of two of your friends as well. But you take care. Hang in there. Thank you so much for doing this together with me as well. Again, I'm Hetal Doshi, organizational psychologist. We're really supporting the mental well-being of our community, and this is an ongoing initiative. Together with me is Daniel from NextupAsia, who has been sharing his lessons and insights from running one of the largest TEDx in the world, meaning TEDxKL. And I love what you say. The main reason why you're doing this is just to show off to the Singaporeans that Malaysians are better. Now I'm misquoting you. I can say that because I'm Singaporean. I'm a nice Singaporean. I'm very nice.
I'm not sure if you're watching Vivian. Vivian is my I don't know, like she's my sister in a sense that she's the curator of TEDx Singapore. She recently took over TEDx Singapore, and she's also a
Right.
lit. That's why she's my sister. Like
She's also what?
We share the same last name actually. I mean, we're
Oh,
not related, by chance we
right,
share
right,
the last
right.
name. And
Yeah,
yeah, we've been doing a lot of stuff together with Singapore also, and with Jakarta.
awesome. I know. I mean, you're a community dude, so you're, completely boundaryless, completely boundaryless. Yeah. I was only just saying that to make a very typical regular Malaysia Singapore joke. You can't you can't have a conversation with a Singaporean without having that come up as well.
Sure.
Anyway, we come in peace. We come in peace. Thanks so much, Daniel. You take care. Catch you soon, okay?
Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Okie dokes. Bye-bye. Bye.
Bye.